not really. It is, yeah, it is still. It's 1:45 at the moment in Ireland. I just got back from a Harry Potter quiz, like pop quiz. I'm wearing my Ravenclaw shirt. We were downright mediocre. I was very upset. I felt like I needed to know a lot more about Harry Potter, but some of the questions were so obscure, and we kind of failed at it. So yeah, not a happy camper. Also, like, lipstick's faded, hair's gone, whatever. We're just gonna roll with it. I really wanted to get this video out to you guys today, and I wanted to record it earlier, but I got stuck with work, and then I had to leave the house. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna record it before I go to bed. It'll be nice and quiet. Hopefully, no background noise. So yeah, let's get into the case. Today, I'm doing another solved case, which I wasn't planning to, but I ran into this case a few days ago and thought it was really interesting. It's a very recent case, and I think it's really well known in the United States. I know it's sparked a lot of outrage. Of course, I had never heard of it, and I'm sure most people outside of the US hadn't, but yeah, let's get into today's case. So today I'll be talking about the case of, sorry, this cord is like making noise. There we go. Hopefully that fixed it. So today we're going to be talking about the case of Cynthia Hoffman. So Cynthia Hoffman, or Cece as she was known to her friends, was 19 years old when she went missing on June 2nd of 2019. She lived in Anchorage, Alaska. I didn't have a lot of time to study this case, so I will probably be reading from my notes a bit more than usual. So Cece had a mental disorder where she had the mind and kind of the emotional state of a 7th grader. So making new friends and going on adventures was very easy for her because she, felt like a child, so she didn't have a lot of fear. She was very open with people. She loved the idea of adventures and stuff like that. So on that day that she went missing, two of her friends, 18-year-old Denali Bramer, who was actually her best friend since high school. I think high school in the United States starts at 14, right? Because you do 4, 4, and 4 years. Like in Belgium, we do 6 and 6 years, so it's different in the US. But I think high school's the last 4 years, right? So she would have been, they were best friends for a good few years anyway. And then 16-year-old Caden McIntosh. Denali and Caden had borrowed a friend's car and had gone by that day to pick up Cece. And they drove up to the Thunderbird Falls trail where they decided they would go on a hike. I just want to put a side note that Denali was known to a lot of people as Angela, which I find really weird because it's not even remotely the same. I don't know if that's most like her middle name or something, but like Cece's parents knew her as Angela, but for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna call her Denali. So Cece was really excited to go on this adventure with her friends and explore the area. The Thunderbird Falls Trail is a very popular 1.8-mile trail that runs along the Ucklanta River and around the Thunderbird Falls, which is a really beautiful waterfall. But in the afternoon, after Denali and Caden had returned home, Cece didn't return home. Her father was really concerned because earlier Cece and her sister had helped him with a chore, and he was going to give them some pocket money as a reward for that and take them to the mall where they could buy whatever they wanted. That was supposed to happen that afternoon, and it wouldn't be like Cece not to show up to something like that. Like Cece, she kept to appointments. Like if you needed her to be somewhere, she would always be there. So her father was immediately concerned that she didn't show up for that. He called her cell phone several times, but it just kept ringing and eventually went straight to voicemail. So early the next morning, he reported her missing to police. He also went out and tried to form a local search party, and he went to like the local news station to get the news about her being missing out. He also knew that the day before she had been with her best friend Denali, so he texted Denali to see if she knew anything. And Denali told him that after their hike, Kaden and her dropped Cece off at a local park because that is what she had asked for. Denali then texted him and said, "I hope she comes home safely. She's my best friend." 2 days after she went missing on June 4th, unfortunately, Cece's body was retrieved from the Uclanta River. So police decided to first interview the last people she was seen with, which were Denali and Kaden. It didn't take very long before Denali started talking, and she told police that the group had been smoking weed in the valley, and on their way back to Anchorage, they stopped at a parking lot at Thunderbird Falls. They had agreed to bound each other by like hands and feet with duct tape and then take pictures of each other, and they had brought a 9mm gun as a prop. However, at some point, Cece panicked. Kaden then took the gun from Denali and apparently blacked out. And when he came to, he realized that he had shot Cece in the back of the head, almost like an execution. And they panicked and wanted to cover it up, and they threw her body in the river. And they then took all her belongings and drove to a local park where they burned them. So police arrested Kaden for first-degree murder. They didn't arrest Denali for anything because in her story, he was the one that killed Cece, and she claimed that she was terrified of him and that he would do something to her as well. And she didn't know what else to do but to help him, so she really painted herself to be the victim in this case, and police believed her. So she wasn't charged with anything. After hearing this story, Cece's father didn't buy a word of it. He was like, "My daughter would never smoke weed and would never take part in the binding of other people. Like, because of her disability, her mind was like a child's, and it would never think to do something like that." He said that if she had smoked weed, it's because she was forced to and she was kidnapped. He said there's no way that with her disability she would choose to smoke weed. She probably didn't even fully realize what the effects of that were. He also accused police of focusing more on the fact that the group had been partying and blaming it on that than focusing on the actual murder. But Denali and Kaden's story also soon started to unravel. Kaden broke down during an interview and said that Denali had been offered $9 million by some guy she met on the internet called Tyler, and that if she would sexually assault and dispose of someone and send him pictures of that, then he would give her $9 million. He claimed to be a rich man who was who had millions, and that he could easily pay her that money. So she recruited 4 of her friends and then promised them a chunk of the money if they helped her carry this out. For example, the guy that they borrowed the car from, she offered him $500,000 just to lend them his car, but he knew the purpose of it. Like, they told him it was to kill this girl. Since the other accomplices were all juveniles, their identities have been withheld, so we don't know who they are. But one of them, a girl, said that she was present when Denali and Kaden talked to each other about planning the murder. And then the other one, a boy, said that he told them he would help kidnap Cece for a part of the money. I don't think he actually did, though. For as far as I know, it was just Kaden and Denali who were there. So now police had to find out who this Tyler was, and they found that he was a 21-year-old man from Indiana called Darren Schillmiller. And surprise, surprise, he was no millionaire. He didn't have a lot of money. He definitely didn't have $9 million. He was a catfish, and he didn't look remotely like the pictures that he had sent to Denali. When police went through Denali's phone, they found several indecent photos of minors in plain view, like just mixed in with all her other photos. I don't know whether Denali took these on request of Tyler, whether Tyler sent these to her and she saved them on her phone, or whether she just liked those kind of pictures and downloaded them herself, but they were on her phone. They later also found text messages that showed Denali realizing she had been catfished, and this was around the time that she started telling police the story of Caden shooting Cece. So she obviously knew that she had been catfished, and she didn't want to go to jail for this, so she just blamed it on Caden. I'm also kind of surprised it took Caden so long to crack, because obviously he would realize that she was blaming everything on him. I don't know why he would just allow that. So here is what actually happened that day. Denali went out to buy weed, and she made Cece smoke it so that Cece wouldn't fight her. On that day, there weren't a lot of hikers around, which the group was really excited about because it meant that they could be as happy and as loud as they wanted to be and no one would complain about it. But in Denali's mind, it meant that there were no witnesses. It also made them feel a lot more adventurous, and they decided to go off the trail and walk down a path that was not very frequently visited by hikers. It was a lot more overgrown, a lot harder to access. And then they eventually got to a clearing, and that is where Denali and Caden overpowered Cece and bound her hands, feet, and mouth with duct tape. Caden then took a 9mm gun out of Denali's backpack and shot Cece in the back of the head. And Denali then took Cece's body and threw it in the Yuklanzer River. Cece's autopsy did reveal that she was not sexually assaulted, so they found text messages of Tyler asking Denali to sexually assault and kill someone. She didn't actually do that to Cece, but there were also text messages where he wanted her to do the same thing to like a 7 or 8-year-old and send him pictures. I have read reports that said nothing like that was found on her phone, so it's likely she didn't do it. But I've also read reports that said she did do it, like that was found on her phone, so I don't know which one of that is true. Caden was charged with first-degree murder, and although he was only 16, he was charged as an adult. Denali was also charged with first-degree murder and distribution of indecent photos of minors, and the Darren or Tyler was charged with the exact same first-degree murder and the indecent charges, and then the other accomplices in this case were charged with conspiracy in the case. But Tyler was recently extradited to Alaska so that he could stand trial there with everyone else. But I've seen reports that the trial has started, but it's not over yet for as far as I know. I mean, it would be a little bit quick for it to be over already, but I also couldn't find anything about sentencing anywhere. If it has been concluded and you can tell me, great, but a lot of the websites I was trying to access were not accessible from the EU. So I couldn't find any more information on like the course of the trial or any of the sentencing. I find this a really weird case because Denali had been best friends with Cece for years. others. So why? She obviously picked her as a target because of her disability, and it would be easier to convince her to go along with this or to, drug her. But I just don't understand the reasoning since she was her best friend. But I imagine that she has just a twisted mind, because if some guy I met online reached out to me and asked me to do this, there isn't a hair in my head that thinks about doing this. I don't enjoy stuff like that, and I wouldn't go like, oh yeah, let's do that. The fact that she wanted to do it, I don't think it was just for the money. I think you have to have a certain mindset to be willing to do it. But what shocks me even more is that she got 4 of her friends to agree to taking part in this as well. That's 5 people that are willing to kill an innocent girl for money. I find that so strange. I know that obviously happens in the world, but that it's one group of 5 friends who live in Anchorage, which I know is like the biggest city in Alaska, but still not a very big city. I find it so bizarre that they all had this mindset of, yeah, give us money and we'll kill this innocent girl. I don't understand how that works. Yeah, that's all there is in this case. I feel bad for her parents. I mean, she was just the victim of, she was the victim of her disability, I would say. I think that's why she was